Hi, I'm Michael Schmidt, the Genetic Information Analyst with Accelerated Genetics, and I'd like to talk you through some of the new and exciting genetic traits that we have available on our bulls at Accelerated Genetics. In April, there were 6 new wellness traits that were presented by Zoetis, and I'd like to guide you through some of the questions that you may have been having as far as how to use these. So today, through this presentation, I hope you'll have a better understanding of how reliable these traits are, how heritable these traits are, and the impact that despite low heritability can have positive effects on your herd. And finally, that through the use of direct selection in these traits, you'll be able to see more positive impacts on your herd than previously. The 6 new wellness traits from Zoetis were mastitis, lameness, metritis, displaced abomasum, ketosis, and retained placenta. The screenshot here you see at the top is a sample of one of our bulls with approximately 50% reliability on genomically tested bulls for these wellness traits. And here those reliabilities have been highlighted. But the main questions that we've been receiving and we'd like to address: will these traits make a difference in your herd? And is the reliability high enough for you to consider them in your selection for your mating and genetic goals? So first off, we'd like to start with what reliability is. Reliability is not a measure of probability. It's not a coin flip where either you get the genes or you don't get the genes. Reliability can be affected by a couple of things, mainly their heritability and the amount of information available on that trait. So for example, the information available could be coming from the animal itself, parents, relatives, or any progeny that may be affecting the information that would be related to the reliability of that genomic prediction or of that predicted transmitting ability. And this reliability can be segmented into stages throughout a sire's life as he adds information. Initially, the parent average of a trait such as net merit is about 35%. With a genomic test, that reliability increases to 70%. As he adds hundreds of daughters, it moves up to 85%, and then to 99% once he has thousands of daughters and he's a fully proven established sire. And as we see that net merit is about 12% heritable, what about lower heritability traits, such as the wellness traits, which are at about 7% heritable? There currently is not a parent average for the wellness traits, but the predicted parent average would be about 18%. Once that genomic test happens, they move up to 50%. And over time, as the daughters will calve in from these sires, they'll move up to 70%. And then finally, 95% will be a fully proven animal. And eventually, they will max out at 99%. Now let's put the heritability in perspective with these wellness traits relative to other traits that have been significant to progress in the Holsteins. The wellness traits are at 7% heritability, while DPR, HCR, and CCR are all under 5, as you can see. To keep this in perspective, the daughter pregnancy rate weighting in the net merit index is 7%, despite having a low heritability of only 4%. Together, these 3 traits of DPR, HCR, and CCR will total 10% in the net merit index. So we need to keep in mind that direct selection will produce much faster and a quicker response from a genetic level. So as you can see, for example, that productive life has been used since the mid-90s as a way to measure how long animals have lasted in the herd. Indirectly, by selecting for productive life, you're indirectly selecting for daughter pregnancy rate, as they're correlated by 64%. Now in the case of the wellness trait of mastitis, when you compare that to somatic cell score, they're about 45% correlated. So even though you've been selecting for somatic cell count for many years, you may not have had as much progress in previous years as you could now have by selecting for the mastitis trait. You'll see this in our next example. Direct selection is a very important tool, which can be shown here by a low heritability trait. For example, this is DPR as it has changed over time. In the early 2000s, and about 2003, was when DPR was introduced to the net merit formula and began to be heavily selected for. Since that time, you can see the changes in DPR as it has stopped from the downward spiral and has begun to make significant progress to actually surpass the cow daughter pregnancy rate. You can see previously a slight bump at about 1994 to 1998 where that downward rate has leveled off. And that's where productive life began to be accounted for, was in 1994. So despite having productive life as an indirect selector for daughter pregnancy rate, it did not do enough to slow the downward spiral of daughter pregnancy rate. So once they stopped and said in 2003 that we wanted to select for daughter pregnancy rate, the Holstein breed has been able to drastically reduce the fertility issues that the cows have been having. So through this example, we've been able to show that by directly selecting for DPR, which is only 4% heritable, the Holstein breed has saw significant genetic progress. This is really exciting when we think in perspective of how directly selecting for the new wellness traits will have a higher heritability, will set us on track to see significant genetic progress for overall dairy wellness and profitability. Overall, I hope that some of these examples have been able to answer some of your questions about the Zoetis wellness traits through examples of reliability, how heritability and the information available can affect that trait or that value, as well as the value of directly selecting for traits instead of indirectly selecting through other traits which are correlated to them. Now that you have a better understanding of the wellness traits, you may want to begin analyzing this information for your own sire selection. You can do that by visiting www.excelgen.com, by clicking on Holstein in the upper right-hand corner, and then the Advanced Search button. Click the Wellness Traits tab, check the boxes for the categories you would like to view, and then click Search. Then you can sort sires by each trait by clicking the column heading. For example, if you click DWP dollars, the sires will sort from highest to lowest for DWP. This is a very exciting time for the Holstein breed, as this has offered us as breeders and as Accelerated Genetics a way to offer bulls that will be superior genetically for siring animals that will remain profitable and last longer in your herd. The new wellness traits offer a way to directly select for common health events that we never had previous to this. It is possible to make progress with a commitment to breeding a more profitable, healthy Holstein cow. For more information or questions you may have about the new wellness traits offered by Accelerated Genetics Holstein sires, contact your Accelerated Genetics representative today.